another round of breakout sessions. Thank you all so much for participating today and yesterday in all the dialogue and conversations. It's been an incredible lineup of ideas so far, and we have more to share as we close out our Future Summit 2025. This afternoon, we'll focus on the theme of creativity. We'll focus on how AI can spark new ways of thinking, learning, and imagining the future. We're excited to share, first, a student-created short film that amplifies their emerging voices and perspectives, reminding us that the story of AI is as much about human creativity as it is about the technology. So let's take a look at Just Take Isla, directed by students Reva Dillon and Koala Tonga.
Has this ever happened to you? You no longer have to worry about pesky little mistakes ruining your day. Just take Isla, the artificial intelligence learning assistant, so you never have to worry about human error again. This innovative technology requires a single oral dose, and through cutting-edge neural transmission, you'll have your very own personal assistant. Stressed about the big meeting? Just take Isla. Isla will learn everything about your schedule and adapt to your patterns. Leaving the house and missing something? Isla will take care of that. Trying to eat healthier? Isla will make sure you aren't getting tempted by the junk food. Don't decide what to eat, Isla will do that for you. Isla comes with advanced security protocols to prioritize user safety. At any sign of danger, Isla will transmit an audible warning to her user. With Isla, you'll never be alone. Why waste time and money on a flawed therapist when Isla can do it better? Forget the dating apps. Isla is the perfect best friend, confidant, and partner. Make every day the easiest day, and just take Isla. Use of the Artificial Intelligence Learning Assistant, or Isla, may cause cases of cognitive dissonance, depression, increased paranoia of technology, aversion towards human beings, social interactions, and the ability to process complex literary texts. Isla is not intended for those who struggle with pre-existing mental health conditions, like schizophrenia.
What the fuck was that? Alright, can you just change that whole part and make it into something happier? And also the disclaimer part, like, why do we even have that? I mean, this isn't regulated.
Yeah, I agree, and honestly, try a new version of Isla.
Alright, yeah, let's try this again.
Has this ever happened to you? You no longer have... Guys, are you paying attention? I don't think this is working. It's really not working. Just take Isla, the artificial intelligence learning assistant. So you... Hey, are you paying... Guys, can we get some new people to write prompts in here? Hey, are you paying attention? I'm not doing this again.
Interesting, right? We have to appreciate not just the story, but the craft and the sentiment behind it. This film was directed by two of our community college students and produced by these amazing students with all the post-production, created using entirely Adobe Creative tools. A reminder again of how technology can amplify creativity and bring our ideas to life. And on that note, it's the perfect time to welcome our next speaker, someone who knows this intersection of creativity and technology very well. Our next speaker is Brian Johnsrud. He is the Director of Educational Thought Leadership and Student Success at Adobe. Brian is a former K-12 teacher, current college lecturer and researcher, and thought leader in educational technology. He knows and understands our students, and he is passionate about helping this next generation unlock their creativity and acquire essential digital literacy skills and artificial intelligence skills so that they can be launched into their future careers and beyond. Please join me in welcoming Brian Johnsrud to share with us Creativity with AI, Imagining the Future of Student Success.
Hello. It's so nice to be here with you all. Thanks for hanging in the afternoon and all that post-lunch digestion happening. It's great to be here. I've loved spending time with so many of you and learning with you. I'm here today to talk about creativity. The kind of creativity that went into that awesome short film that you just saw, which could have been an essay, but it was a film. It could have been done solo, but it was done collaboratively as a team. And there's so many dozens of other skills that the creators learned along the ways, all that are hallmarks of creativity. By which I mean creative thinking, creative problem solving, innovation, storytelling. And in that spirit, as I begin, I want to quickly share with you a little bit about my story and how education and creativity brought me from the classroom to now my role at Adobe, which speaks a little bit to my own sense of purpose, which is going to be a key theme in my talk today. So, flashback about 25 years. I grew up in rural Montana, just outside my mom's reservation. I was the first person in my family to go to college, and my family was very lukewarm to very resistant to me going to college, in fact. No one had gone to college before. My mom didn't actually graduate high school. And there's just a lot of the baggage that comes with first generation, right? A sense of how much is it going to cost, is it worth it? And I was so lucky because one of my foster parents in high school was actually my English teacher. And so she, of course, forced me to write the college application essay. But she also equipped you with something that made me feel like there's at least one thing I'll be able to do at college, which was the essay. By the time I graduated, I could write a 5-paragraph essay to a 5-page essay. And she and the rest of my teachers said, especially as an English major, this is the one thing that you've got going for you. You've got this in the bag, you got the thesis statement, you got the MLA formatting, you're going to be okay. Well, total bait and switch. I went to Montana State University, again, 25 years ago. And I don't know what was in the water there, but almost all of my faculty were having me do everything besides an essay. So I'd take a 19th century American literature course, and my professor would say, all right, for your final, I want you to make a mixtape, choose at least 12 songs, and write a paragraph about why something about that song or the lyrics tie to one of the readings of the course. Or they'd have us do plays, or design posters. And I didn't know that this wasn't normal, but two really cool things happened. One was, I kind of put myself out there and realized that I really like creating. I like making things that didn't exist before. The other cool thing that was happened was all of these things I thought I had to hide, right? I mean, the laundry list. Low income, rural, gay, first generation, mixed race, like all of these things that I thought were things that I wasn't really comfortable sharing. But when you do creative work, it's kind of hard for those things not to show up. And so I got to know my classmates a lot more, but I also got to know my faculty really, really well. And they got to know me. And so after a while, I was getting my degree in undergrad in K-12 teaching. A couple of my faculty said, you know, Brian, you really like this college thing. Yes, you could be a K-12 teacher. I think you might want to teach college. And I loved medieval literature. So they were like, why don't you apply to grad school? Which seemed as ridiculous to me as applying to undergrad, but again, I had some teachers that were kind of forcing me to do it. And the really bizarre thing is, thank goodness none of us knew any better. In little Montana State 25 years ago, they're like, oh, well, you like medieval literature. Oxford seems like it's like the birthplace of medieval literature. There's a scholarship called the Rhodes Scholarship. Why don't you just apply to that, and then you can have money to go to Oxford? Thank goodness none of us knew like how improbable that was. And then, I guess, like, I was very lucky. I did get to go to Oxford. I got the Rhodes Scholarship. I went to Oxford for a couple years, and the teaching was so different. But I thought, this makes sense. It's Oxford, it's literally a medieval institution. It was very essay-focused, no PDFs, no LMS, none of that. And then I went on to do my PhD at Stanford, and I was like, all right, here we go. Stanford, Silicon Valley, like cutting-edge technology. And I've been teaching K-12, so I was really used to ed tech. And then I was shocked when I went to Stanford, and it was chalk and talk. it was Sage on the stage. And I was like, I mean, can I at least get a smartboard? Like, let alone like a projector in a lot of my rooms. And so what happened was towards the end of my PhD, even though my PhD was not in education to begin with, I started doing more and more ed tech. And then after getting my PhD, I actually built a research lab at Stanford focused on creativity. How can, at this time, a lot of ed tech tools were very STEM focused, very critical thinking. So I started building tools and saying, if we let students engage with text and their readings in creative ways, what can happen? And I actually got to do a lot of co-teaching and piloting of those tools at Foothill-De-Anza College, which was so much fun for me. All of which is to say, what a circuitous route to a few years later, Adobe had a role, and they said, you know what, we've been kind of known as the tools for creative professionals. But we have all these easy to access tools now. And we have science teachers and history teachers in K-12 and in college wanting to do these kind of really cool, innovative things, the kind of stuff I got to do in my undergrad, which is why I now have this really, really cool role at Adobe. One of the most exciting parts of my job is working with research partners to conduct research on how creativity impacts the classroom, and especially now, how creativity with AI is impacting students. And this is ranging from what are the goals of educators and students to ultimately, how is this technology or this kind of creative teaching changing their practice and student outcomes? So in the study I want to share with you today, and I'll stand over here now so you can actually see the slides. In the study I want to share with you today, I partnered with the research organization Advanis. Because today, there's been so much research on AI for things like writing and coding, text-to-text prompts, and its impact on critical thinking, all of which are important. But I saw a big gap in other equally exciting use cases, namely AI for creativity, for creating things that are multimodal or multimedia that can help students learn and demonstrate their understanding and skills, both to their instructors, but also to future employers. So throughout the report, we asked 4 big questions. 1, how is creative generative AI currently being used in classrooms today? 2, is it influencing student academic outcomes? 3, what about their career outcomes? And 4, this other big bucket of how does learning with creative generative AI influence students' personal well-being? That sort of thing that I felt in my undergrad. So I'm excited to share with you what we learned. Let's dive in. For the full study, we started by getting insights from about 2,800 K-12 and higher ed educators, starting with teachers and faculty in the US and the UK. We sampled across institution sizes, different grade levels, subjects, disciplines, and teaching experience. And we learned from their surveys, from short essays, their curricular examples, the case studies, interviews that I did with them, all to paint this kind of 360 picture of what's happening on the ground today. And the stats I will share with you today, I pulled out just a subset, just the 667 faculty in higher ed. Again, a combination of community college, 2-year, 4-year, public and private institutions. So first, I wanted to know when educators are intentionally choosing tools for their students to use for the classroom, what goes into that decision-making process? The sort of vetting on if I'm going to have them use creative AI, what matters to me as I'm choosing? And you can see some of the big headlines here. Are there student privacy protections? Basically 96s to 95% across the board. Was the model created ethically and responsibly? We get them a list of about 20. These are the 7 that were the very top. Can you verify whether the outputs were made using AI? With examples of things like content credentials. 96% said they care that it's an industry standard tool that students are going to use in the future, not something that just popped up on the App Store and might disappear in a few weeks. For anyone who's taught using those tools and then midway through the semester or quarter, the startup goes belly up or it just disappears, you know how frustrating that is. And then other important things that are probably not surprising, but are often pretty rare. Was the tool actually designed by former faculty, and was there deep faculty input? In other words, this wasn't just something that they made for industry and then threw in the classroom. Along those lines, is there an education-specific version of the tool? Does it work with an LMS? Does it work with creating a classroom or rostering? And last but not least, this one dipped a little bit, mostly because people in the study didn't know this was a thing to ask until they learned about it, and then they said, oh yeah, this actually is important to me. Which is namely that the creative outputs are cleared for commercial use. So for instance, that video that you just saw, if a student used AI for it and then puts it on YouTube or monetizes it, do they have actually the rights to do that? Or legally, based on how the model is made, I would actually put students in a tricky situation. So if these are the requirements, or sort of the hopes, what I wanted to then know is, what did usage of creative AI actually look like in higher ed classrooms for the past academic year? So what I found was, of respondents, 87% in the US said that their students are creating with AI for their coursework. 23% said they're requiring it, 64% said it's optional. I know they're using it, or I've said you can use it, just disclose. 13% said they're not aware of any use. And if this number seems high to you, it did for me as well. Because other studies that I've shown, are you using things like ChatGPT or text-to-text, usually hover around 70%. And so what I learned from these educators was, there's something about creative generative AI, that kind of tools that help students make images, posters, slides for presentations. The feedback that I got was that it's sort of a simpler starting point for a lot of faculty, in part because these kinds of projects aren't disrupting your traditional assessments, right? Like multiple choice quizzes or short essays. Creative AI isn't going to tell you if the answer is D, all of the above, or write a paragraph for you. But the goodness that comes from creative activities turns out can create some real momentum in the classroom. When we asked how often are students doing this, 69% of colleges who are creating with AI for their coursework are doing so at least weekly, and 23%, whopping 23%, are doing so daily. Again, not just for an individual class, but across their courses. So something's going on here. To contextualize this, here's some examples of what I heard from educators. This is from a community college math and CS faculty member in Texas who shared, many students have creative visions, but they lack the skill sets to make them come to fruition. Using AI, students can bring their vision to life. Since creativity is natural, which I love, when a student completes an endeavor using AI, she feels a sense of accomplishment, increasing her sense of well-being. And that well-being piece I'm going to return to in a second. When I then asked faculty what are the benefits that they're seeking from having their students use this technology, here's what we found. The top benefit, increasing the speed of creation. You can see in the gray that's not helpful, I find this helpful, or very helpful. Improving creative confidence, right? That fear of the blank page, the fear of getting started, especially if it's an optional creative assignment, right? You can write an essay or do something creative. Every time I gave that option, yeah, 1 to 5% of students would take the creative option, because that's scary. Removing barriers for students with advanced design skills, and then again, time. Reducing instructional time, or saying, I would love to have my students design a poster. That's going to take them 10 hours. I haven't taught them how to design a poster. If there's a sense that with AI they can design a poster in my subject area in an hour or two, suddenly that becomes a little bit more digestible. I then asked if those were sort of the reasons faculty are using tools and the benefits they see. If they intended to keep using creative AI this year, what was their top motivations for doing that? Top of the list was student engagement. That students, when they have the opportunity to do this and to use these tools, show up. There's a light behind their eyes. You get a sense that they're actually engaging in ways that they weren't otherwise. 50% said it's improving student communication and the ability to have some self-expression in the classroom. And last but not least, 36% said those sort of benchmark stats, right? I think it's going to improve student retention, attendance, or even graduation rates. Now, this study drew from the general population, so there was a broad spectrum of educators who do or don't use AI, but even more so, there are those who were highly creative in how they teach, and for those whom creative skills weren't prioritized, which made me curious. In most published research on creative thinking, what you're seeing here are the top things that have been empirically shown to increase students' creative thinking. There's actually a metric where you can assess students' work and see how much creative thinking was employed in this activity. So these are the things we know work. Things like in your classroom or in your assignments, do they have the opportunity to brainstorm various approaches and solutions? Do they get to experiment with different methods, even if they might not succeed? Do they have to generate original ideas to address a problem? And so forth. So because we know these things work, what I wanted to do, because I had this really cool sample size to work with, was to ask every educator in this study, which of these do you do in your classroom, and how often? Daily, weekly, monthly, or less than monthly? And what I did was then I created 2 cohorts. The top 25th, the top quartile of educators who are doing more of these things more often, and the educators in the bottom quartile who are doing these things less often. Often doing them less often because they have very strict curriculum, they haven't had professional development. It doesn't mean they don't want to do these things, they're just not showing up in their classroom as much. And what I wanted to know is, if you do these things, yes, we know they improve creative thinking, what else happens with your students? And here's what we found. And the gray on the left, that's the bottom quartile of educators. And the purple on the right, that's that top quartile, the top 25% who are doing those things on the previous slides the most. And what I asked them is, in these different areas, are your students demonstrating this skill at least weekly to you? In your class, in lectures or assignments, are you seeing this skill? And what you're seeing is a huge delta in all the goodness that comes from creative activities. Not just creative thinking, but deeper learning of subject matter, increased curiosity, knowledge retention, making interdisciplinary connections, critical thinking, problem solving, resilience. All this goodness just beyond an increase in creativity, which is really why I care about AI today. Not AI for AI's sake, but if AI helps more of this to happen, how can we use it in classrooms to ensure we're not replacing creativity, we're not replacing creative thinking, we're actually getting more of this in the classroom so we can see more of these benefits. But of course, student success is holistic. And beyond the classroom, as educators, we're also stewards for ensuring that students have full, equitable access to career opportunities based on the skills that they're acquiring in our classes. And when it comes to essential skills for every job and industry, creativity is top of the list. Quite literally top of the list. What you're looking at here is a list of career skills that are rising in significance in the next 2 years, according to a global cross-industry study by the World Economic Forum. They do this every 2 years. Creativity has stayed 1, 2, and 3 basically for the past couple decades. Which is why, about 5 years ago, the World Economic Forum created their first education initiative. And it focused primarily on K-12. And the reason that they built this is the World Economic Forum really cares about supporting industries with the skills that they need. And this was the first time they said, we can't do industry training alone. This shift is so big, we have to start thinking K-12 and higher ed institutions. How can we make sure that they're getting the skills that are needed for the workforce? So they created a board of about 20 people, invited Adobe because we're a company founded on creativity, and this sort of needed to be solved. Of course, AI has sort of changed everything. This is also from the World Economic Forum. Pretty staggering numbers. They estimate that in the next 5 years, there's going to be another 92 million jobs that are displaced because of AI. Not great, but there's this other opportunity here. They also estimate that there's going to be 170 million new and emerging jobs. So how are employers navigating that shift? To make sure that workers are either skilled or reskilled or upskilled for the shift, so that we actually create opportunity, not losing opportunity. These are the top strategies that employers across industries globally are using. 85% said, well, we have a lot of employees today, we need to upskill them. We're going to train them all on AI and the essential skills that we need. 73% said that they're working on automation of processes and tasks. 70% said hiring. This is the only way we're going to get these skills at our company. We need to find people that already have them so we can hire them, which is a lot easier sometimes than reskilling an existing workforce. This is from the 2024 Work Trend Annual Index Report, where they asked leaders, again across industries, how AI is affecting their hiring processes. 71% of leaders across these industries are now more likely to hire a less experienced candidate with AI skills than a more experienced one without. To me, this is a very exciting and I think very new moment in history, filled with opportunity for our students. Because now they have a chance to say in an interview, you know what, I don't have 5 years of experience as a marketer. I don't have 2 years of experience as a project manager. I don't have 7 years experience as a grant writer. But what I do have is the ability to use AI to be more efficient, more innovative, and to help your broader team learn how we can get the work done and get better results with AI. 77% of leaders say early in career talent is going to get greater responsibilities due to AI. And I say, thank goodness. Because there is so much uninspiring grunt work the first few jobs, or first few years on your jobs, those sort of menial or repetitive tasks that are not particularly exciting or passionate. Employers are saying, well, if you have AI, we're going to give you bigger jobs. Whole projects that you can work on because you can now up-level some of your skills that are going to be needed. And finally, perhaps the most sobering, 66% of leaders say they would not hire someone without AI skills. Now, this report's almost a year old, so I imagine this number has certainly gone up since then. With all of this in mind, how does creativity come into play? Creatives have gotten this memo more than anyone. These are the occupations that have had the largest increase of members on LinkedIn adding AI skills to their profiles in the past year. And you can see in the sort of rainbow spectrum here, creative roles, content writer, graphic designer, product designer, you can even argue marketing manager, front-end developer, those are also very creative roles. They're at the top of the pack in upskilling, in response to a huge industry demand for these new skills so that they can stay competitive. So this motivation, helping students to unlock and acquire those durable skills, to have those career opportunities, was also a really strong motivator for the faculty that participate in the study. 86% of educators believe teaching students these creative generative AI skills is going to enhance their chances of getting a job. And not just any jobs, but jobs that they're actually passionate about, very important. And 38% reported that improved student career prospects is among their top reasons for encouraging the use of responsible AI. Let me give you an example of that piece about passion and why I think it's important. This is a quote from a business faculty member in Georgia who shared with me that AI can significantly contribute to student well-being and a sense of purpose by enhancing their creativity and self-expression in various ways. It can help students express themselves, build confidence with creative wins, explore identity, reduce stress. Whether it's offering a safe space for self-expression or helping them connect with others, AI can be a powerful ally in supporting student well-being. Now, well-being, especially purpose, came up so frequently in my pre-research for this study that I couldn't help pull on that thread a little bit. And I got really curious about the role that it plays here. So I had the opportunity to spend half a day with kind of the world's expert on purpose. His name's Vic Strecker. He's a professor at the University of Michigan. He's actually in the School of Public Health. And he's literally written the book on purpose, and it's one of the top performing Coursera courses on purpose. So there's a lot of research on how purpose-driven companies and employees with a high sense of purpose generally do better in the workplace. But as an expert in public health, Vic became particularly interested because when you use this empirical measurement of how high someone's sense of purpose is, health outcomes are actually highly correlated. So people with a strong sense of purpose, they have better immune systems, lower stress, better cognitive function, decreased risk of heart disease, live longer, and a lot more. And as Vic shared, he sort of breaks the 7 main ways in which people have a sense of purpose that kind of fill their buckets. Creativity is one of those main ways. People say, I find a sense of purpose by trying new things, brainstorming new ways to do them, bringing something to life that just didn't exist before. And that sort of buzz that you get because it feels great, because it came from you. So because there's this empirical measure, we can ask someone how high their sense of purpose is. I couldn't help but use that in the study as well, because I got curious. So just like the cohorts of educators, the top 25 and bottom 25th percentile for creativity, I broke them into similar buckets around purpose. The lowest sense of purpose and the highest sense of purpose educators. Because education, after all, is a very purpose-driven profession. And I wanted to get a sense of those educators with a high or low sense of purpose, how much is that translating over to their students? So what you're seeing here is I asked them, whose responsibility is it that students have a sense of their purpose before graduating? Faculty in the US with a low sense of purpose, this is the bottom 25th percentile, it's pretty split. for students figuring out what they want to do with their lives. 29% say that's the student's responsibility, not my job. 43% said a little bit of me, a little bit of them. 28% said it's my job as an instructor to make sure students leave here graduating knowing their sense of purpose. Let's look to the right, educators in the top 25th percentile of purpose. Only 14% are fully passing the buck onto their students, and a full 88%, if you combine them, of those high-purpose educators are taking ownership for ensuring that their students also have a sense of purpose in their life. They're the ones where students aren't just learning long division. They aren't just learning that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, all that important content knowledge, but they're also expressing themselves and figuring out what lights them up, what gets a fire in their belly. And I think this kind of creative exploration and opportunity that we can give students, for me, is probably one of the most exciting ways in which we can be using AI in the classroom today. Because a lot's at stake, and the next generation needs purpose more than ever. In primary school, 80% of students don't have a clear idea of their sense of purpose, which is a shame because research has shown that those who do tend to have better mental health and more resilience against setbacks. By high school, things don't improve much. 58% of young adults in the US say they lack any meaning or purpose in their lives, and half report that their mental health is negatively influenced by that. And for those who say, well, that's what college is for, to figure out what you want to do with your life, 95% of college graduates consider a sense of purpose important in their work, but only 40% of recent graduates say that they've actually found a career that feels meaningful, or a job that feels meaningful to them. Because if you don't know what your sense of purpose is, then you can't make purpose-driven decisions about your life. If I don't know that being creative lights me up, I don't know to look for to acquire that skill and to look for those jobs. So I'll end by saying this study really highlighted for me that how holistic student success really is. That academic achievement, career success, and personal well-being, and that sort of sense of purpose, these are all intertwined, which I think we kind of just know at a gut level. But what also showed is creativity connects these groups. And the more creativity and creative thinking that we can bring to our students, the more it really raises all boats. So that's why I'm excited about AI today. I'm the first to admit I'm a bit of an AI optimist, because I see the ways in which AI, if it's designed safely and responsibly and actually for the classroom, can help with this development. Because I think our jobs, the reason we're all here, is to ensure that every student everywhere has the opportunity to fulfill their full potential, not least their full creative potential. That's it for me. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the conference. A little bit left, you can come by the booth to say hi, reach out on LinkedIn. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you so much, Brian, for your informative and thoughtful presentation. I really appreciated Brian's emphasis on how creativity is a durable skill or an enduring skill. It's what can enable purpose-driven work and support student success outcomes, and I think that's really important for all of us to remember as part of this conversation. This summer, we actually had the opportunity through the Digital Center to see firsthand just how creativity can be paired with problem solving to become a powerful driver of student growth and career readiness. The Digital Center, in partnership with Cal Poly's Digital Transformation Hub, hosted an immersive, transformational AI summer camp. It was designed to inspire and equip the next generation of our community college students to become critical thinkers and innovators. We had over 1,300 community college students from across our community colleges apply to attend this summer camp. We were only able to accommodate 100 of those students. These students were a mix of computer science majors, STEM majors, humanities majors, and creative arts majors. Some had technical skills prior to attending summer camp, some did not. But in early August, we welcomed them to an in-residence, week-long intensive at Cal Poly, where they were presented with challenge statements that some of you here or some of your colleagues at your institutions submitted to us. They were challenge statements that gave us some institutional problems that the students were then asked to tackle and asked to say, could this problem benefit from an AI-driven solution? They had 1 week as a team to come up with a solution and then pitch it at the end of the week. It was an amazing, incredible opportunity. Myself and some other colleagues got to be there that week and mentor them. And let me tell you, these students worked some long days and a lot of long nights to come up with some solutions and present to us what they had learned and what they could come to us as a solution with. So I'd like to now present 2 of our students and ask them to come share a little bit about their experiences so you can see what happened that week. Please welcome Christopher Kang and River Covey. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome, Christopher. Welcome, River.
How's it going?
So, Christopher, I'm going to start with you. Why did you apply to attend summer camp, and how did you feel when you found out you were accepted out of all those 1,300 applications?
Yeah, so I'm Christopher. I'm from College of Marin. Shout out. And I applied to the summer camp because I wanted my summer to be productive. And I also wanted to learn more about Amazon's platform and products that they provide. And seeing that AWS is like an industry standard, I think that it's not only great for my transfer application, but also for the workforce. And I think that these skills that I learned are transferable to other platforms too. For example, Google, other AI companies. And I think that it's an experience that can be paralleled with like online classes because it's like a immersive experience basically.
Thank you. River, once you found out that you had been accepted to summer camp, what were you most looking forward to in the lead up?
Yeah, I was excited for the whole program. It's 5 days at Cal Poly SLO, one of the nicest campuses in California. And I was just excited to work on machine learning projects with other inspired individuals. As a civil engineering major, we don't get to do as much machine learning as I would like to, so getting to apply myself in that space was beneficial both to my academic and professional careers.
We just had our speaker talk about how creativity and technical skills need to be blended and merged together. How are you technically and creatively challenged with the project that your team worked on?
So basically, one technical challenge that I came across while working with the community college districts is that the data doesn't seem to be standardized, unfortunately, and it leads to all of these messy, we gotta work around this data and build AI around that data rather than AI integrated with those data. And I think that also creatively challenged us because then we were forced to think about other solutions, be resourceful, and we came up with really sick innovations, I guess.
In what way did AI Summer Camp challenge you, and how did it prepare you to be workforce ready?
I was challenged in a variety of different ways. I worked on a team of 6 people, and they had a variety of different backgrounds. Some were computer science, some were non-technical. I myself, as a civil engineer, had experience both on the technical and non-technical sides. So I acted in a project manager capacity, and I ensured that everyone had a task that they could deliver by the end of it, and then I was able to kind of integrate the back end with the front end with the business logic. So yeah, I think that was one of the exciting aspects of it for sure.
Okay, and then I'll ask you the same question. How has it prepared you to be workforce ready, and what's next for you?
Yeah, so definitely AWS helps a lot because now I'm getting used to working with cloud platforms and also getting engaged with vast amounts of data in the real world that wouldn't be seen in an MVP perspective, I guess. So these are real world data where it can get messy. So I guess that prepares me for the workforce. And also not only that, it also prepares me in terms of non-technical skills, like soft skills, presenting, making friends with people that doesn't seem to align with my major at first, but then I realized, oh, we have a lot of people in common, which I guess is the beauty of the CCC system, because it's a really diverse community with a lot of perspectives from different majors, different age ranges.
River, as you look back on this experience, what did you say you learned most about yourself having to be in this intensive week-long experience? And, you know, there were a lot of long days and long nights. What did you learn about yourself and others?
Definitely. I learned that you could be introverted and extroverted at the same time. I was working by myself on my computer for long hours, but I was also engaging in team building exercises, working with my teammates, making friends, and so I think that understanding that there is a time and a place, and like code switching is really important in the STEM field, especially when you're working on a team, going from like, oh, I'm really focused right now, to like, how can we all work together to get this best deliverable out?
What about for you? What are some takeaways, Christopher, and what you've learned about yourself?
Yeah, I guess the takeaway I have is that AI is really powerful, and I think that CCC needs to harness this power because, you know, I noticed there's a lot of like tasks that seem repetitive that, you know, workers at CCC's experience, like, you know, counseling, managing audits, financial spreadsheets, when it could all be optimized with AI, like making systems for them and workflows that actually make the overall outcome more productive, because then they'll be working on more important things rather than doing mundane tasks that, you know, don't seem to be productive. So that's like my biggest takeaway.
How do you feel about participating next year in the, you know, and beyond in this builder community that you've both been part of?
I would love to remain involved. One of my goals as a civil engineer is to maintain a skill set in computer science and machine learning. I feel that this program was transformative as far as being able to put AWS on my resume, DX Hub at Cal Poly Slow on my resume. We had a project that we can highlight on our resumes. We have networks that we've developed. So there's a huge variety of different benefits from this program. I would love to get involved next year and continue my skills as I look for internships in machine learning and software engineering.
Yeah, both these students as well as all of their teammates had such an incredible opportunity. One of the things we have talked about previously is the community that was built.
Right. I think AWS is planning like a builder community, and I think that it's a great way not only to connect with fellow builders, but also to address challenges that are local, right? It's not like a general problem statement that's given to you. It's targeting pain points in your community and bridging gaps between underserved communities and a point of access. So I think that's what's cool about what Amazon's mission is, building this community.
Yeah, and we were really excited that we could bring an opportunity to our community college students. We had 43 colleges represented with the almost 100 students who participated. And I think that's incredible to have almost 100 community college students in a room together, creating learning skills and building community. And so I very much appreciate that you were part of that and that you were able to come here today and share your experience with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing. I can't tell you how incredible, again, I have to emphasize, they worked so hard all week to get information from us as community college leaders and say, here's a potential problem we have, and to work all week, and then on the Friday, the 5th day, after some sleepless nights, be able to pitch and present. It really showed for us how we're preparing students to be workforce ready. We're teaching them not just some of the technical skills, but those enduring skills such as teamwork, critical thinking, problem solving, communication. It wasn't easy, but they did it. Next summer, the Digital Center does plan to partner again with AWS and Cal Poly Digital Transformation Hub so that we can do this again and replicate and scale. And we want to partner with all of you. We supported almost 100 students this year. We hope to be able to increase that because we found from talking to the students that the experience was so transformative, so important, especially for our commuter students who don't always have that connection and a way to come together for a week and be immersed in these skills and in these ideas. So stay tuned next year. We'll be sending out information to you because we want to know how we can connect more students, more of your students, into this project. Again, I want to thank you so much. Thank you to the students. Thank you to Brian Johnsrud for presenting to us today and helping us understand and unpack a little bit more about creativity and critical thinking and technology. And now I want to introduce the next speaker, which is Soumya Kannan from IBM.
Hello everyone, I'm Soumya Kannan. A pleasure to be here. I am the Director for Academic Initiatives and Workforce Development at IBM. IBM is proud to be sponsor of this event, and we strongly believe that the best future is the one that we all create together. So great to be here. And let's see if this does its magic. All right. I'm preaching to the choir here when I say technological advances are happening really fast, and the skills gap is incredible, and that is what is preventing a rapid pace of innovation and economic development at the same time. And we at IBM are here to work with you to close that gap. And as Chancellor Christian said, and she's highlighted this, right? How do we make sure that the benefits of these technological advancements reach everyone, right? And that's part of the conversation here. IBM is committed to training, skilling 30 million people by 2030. And as a part of this overall commitment, we aim to train 2 million people in AI by 2026. IBM Skills Build is IBM's education offering. It is completely free of cost for educators and students. And it helps learners prepare for careers with job skills, courses, and credentials. However, it's not just about online courses. I was at the booth yesterday and someone asked me, oh, is this another MOOC? No, it's more than a MOOC, right? IBM Skills Build is a comprehensive offering. It is a package of not just online courses, but rich learning experiences, cohort-based learning experiences, guided learning with support from mentors, who work in industry, and group innovation challenges where students actually are working on hands-on, going through prescriptive hands-on labs to learn content, but also building more expansive capstone-like projects. And they walk out of the learning experience with a project portfolio which they can showcase to their employers. So it's really critical to build that well-rounded learning experience for students where it's show, don't tell employers what you can do, right? Do you have the connections in industry? Do you have mentors who can guide you through your career journey? So those are all the pieces that we are bringing together in these learning experiences. AI, the conversation's all about AI, and as I talk to faculty and students, and my role is global, so I'm talking to folks in California, in the rest of the country here, as well as students and faculty from Europe, Middle East, JPAC, and so on. And while, there's one kind of concerns with, or opportunity with computer science students, but then there's the rest of us, right, who are not computer science students. We're interested in sports and media and arts and creativity and language and communications and whatever that may be for your major of study. And so the approach we've taken with AI learning is how does AI apply to an industry or a career role that you're interested in? So in the last year, we've come out with a lot of new content. For example, I've listed a few courses here, but it's not a comprehensive list. For example, AI in healthcare. What is the application of AI in healthcare? AI in legal. What are the ethical considerations with respect to using AI, with respect to building with AI, and building AI itself in terms of models and so on, right? So there are many layers of ethical considerations there, and we've taken that approach, a more well-rounded approach with respect to AI education. In addition to AI, there's also, all of the core principles and technologies that we students need to learn about, and depending on their career interests again, is cybersecurity, healthcare, cloud. All of those are domains that we also address as a part of our content offerings. And this is again not a comprehensive list. There are courses for web development, design thinking, communication and presentation skills. The previous speaker was talking about all of those core skills that you need to be successful at work. There's been a lot of exciting progress in California. Last month we announced a collaboration with the state of California to bring AI skills to California community colleges. We also work with the Bay Area Community College Consortium to embed cybersecurity and data analytics certificates into the curriculum. Diablo Valley State College is offering academic credit to their students for this coursework. And that serves as a really powerful driver for students to lean into this learning. I'm particularly excited about our collaboration with San Jose State University as well. There we are working with faculty and students to train both faculty as well as students on AI and to accelerate AI education within their ecosystem there. One particular highlight is that we worked with faculty and teams of students there, and students built an AI assistant using Watson X, IBM Watson X, to track and reduce carbon emissions. So that was a particularly interesting project with lots of insights for the students on the application of AI technology. So join us if you are looking to bring innovation and learning and really helping your students meet the moment that we are in today. I would encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn, or my colleague sitting here in the third row in the middle here, Lillian Lee. Connect with us on LinkedIn and reach out. We'd love to work with you. You can also go directly to skillsbuild.org. All of the courses are open and completely free. You can offer them for extra credit or in some form get your students exposed to these learning offerings today. Pleasure talking to you. We'll stay in touch. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're super excited to, first of all, thank IBM for their sponsorship of the summit in general, and in particular of our closing keynote session. So we're very excited about having their support in this endeavor. Please join me in welcoming Hank Rogers, a visionary entrepreneur and climate advocate who has dedicated his career to transforming how we power our planet. As the founder of the Blue Planet Foundation and Blue Planet Energy, Hank has been at the forefront of renewable energy innovation and climate policy for over 2 decades. His groundbreaking work began with successfully lobbying for Hawaii's historic mandate requiring 100% renewable energy by 2045, the first such commitment in the United States. Hank's unique background combines pioneering experience in technology He's perhaps best known for securing the worldwide rights to Tetris and creating Japan's first major role-playing video game, with deep expertise in climate solutions and energy storage systems. His proven track record includes inspiring 15 other states and 2 territories to adopt similar renewable energy mandates and founding the Blue Planet Alliance. In 2021, to export this successful model globally to islands and countries worldwide. His ambitious 2045 timeline was deliberately chosen to coincide with the 100th anniversary of the United Nations, making it a global milestone for solving the climate crisis. Today, Henk will share his bold vision titled "We Will Fix Everything by 2045." A roadmap for how strategic policy change, renewable energy, innovation, and global collaboration can accelerate our path to a sustainable future. Please welcome Henk Rogers.
Testing 1, 2, 3. So I heard I was going to be giving the closing keynote at this amazing gathering, and so I worked really hard and wrote a speech. When they first asked me to speak, there was they labeled me as something to do with AI and jobs, and so I started thinking about that, and so I'll tell you a couple of stories before I get into what I really want to talk about today. It's 1594, and there's a Dutch farmer. I'm originally from the Netherlands. There's a Dutch farmer, and he invents a sawmill. And this thing it's a windmill, and it's got like 16 blades that go up and down, and it drags a log from the canal into these 16 blades and cuts 16 blades, cut a log into 17 planks. That's his idea. So he goes to the Sawyers Guild in Amsterdam, and he says, I got this great new labor-saving device invention. And he demonstrates it to them, and they said, there is no effing way we're going to let this thing anywhere near anywhere where we work, because we're all going to lose our jobs. Okay, so he says, okay, you don't want it, that's fine. And he goes and he does it anyway. He does it, a couple of miles from Amsterdam, he builds it. Holland went from being the smallest, how can I say, maritime country in Europe to the biggest. How did they do that? When they started creating those planks, they improved the efficiency of creating planks by 3,000%. Instead of doing something that took 4 months, it would now take a week. Holland outplanked England and France put together and became the greatest maritime nation in Europe. Beat the Spanish in a war on the ocean, and the same thing, beat the Brits. So all those people who were sawing planks before by hand ended up building ships. There's a moral to the story, of course. I mean, like, you think that a labor-saving device is going to destroy your job? No, it's not. It's going to create other jobs. In 1934 is the other one. In 1934, there was a strike, a long dock worker strike in San Francisco. 2 people died, a couple hundred people were injured. It was a major, major strike. And so it changed labor laws and so on and so forth. But today, how many dock workers do we have? We have containers, so there's no more dock workers. So what did all those people do? They drive trucks, or they have other jobs. Anyway, AI is like that. It's coming along, and it's going to, yes, it's going to take away jobs that are, in my humble opinion, not really jobs. If a machine can do what I do, it's not a job. A machine should do what I do. It's just the way I think about it. My name is Henk Rogers. I majored in computer science and minored in Dungeons and Dragons at the University of Hawaii in the late 70s. This is before personal computers. I moved to Japan, and 6 years later, in 1983, when personal computers came out in Japan, these were not IBMs, they were like Japanese NECs, Fujitsu, Sharp. They all made their own computers back then. I decided I'm going to create a computer game. So, is anybody here coding? Yeah, okay. I wrote the first role-playing game in Japan in 64K. That includes graphics, it includes the story, it includes everything. What is more than 64K anyway? So, it was the #1 game in Japan in 1984. It launched my career as a publisher. I wrote the first 2 games for the company, then I traveled around the world looking for games to bring to Japan. And at a Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in 1988, I found a little game called Tetris. Now, how many of you played Tetris? Oh, I'm so sorry. Or I don't know which way that one should go. But I published Tetris in Japan on 7 different personal computer platforms, none of which were compatible, and on the Nintendo Family Computer, which is the NES machine in the US. And that year, Nintendo came out with Game Boy. And in 1989, they were going to come up with Game Boy in the US and the rest of the world. And Nintendo had a policy of including a game every time they released a new platform, because they don't want somebody to buy a machine and not be able to play a game right away. And I thought Tetris would be the perfect game for Game Boy, and it turns out that it was. So I went to meet with Mr. Arakawa, the president of Nintendo of America, and I said, Mr. Arakawa, I think I have the perfect game for Game Boy. You should include this, Tetris. You should include it with every Game Boy. And he said, why should I include Tetris? I have Mario. And I said, if you want little boys to buy your Game Boy, include Mario. If you want everyone to buy your Game Boy, include Tetris. And he called in his experts, and they agreed, and so we made a deal, we shook hands, and I didn't have the rights to Tetris for Game Boy. Nobody did. So in February of 1989, I got on a plane with a tourist visa to go to the Soviet Union to find who had the rights to Tetris, which organization. If you want to know that story, there's a movie on Apple TV. Have any of you seen that? There's a movie on Apple TV called Tetris. The guy who played Elton John in Rocket Man plays me, or his name is Taron Egerton. He's an up-and-coming actor, very good actor actually. He looks nothing like me. But he's a great actor. So it was, and I went through the script, and it was kind of terrifying because the script had so much Hollywood nonsense in it. Car chase? Seriously? So anyway, I thought, oh, this is going to be such a bad B movie, and so I just sort of like shivered, and when I went to watch the movie for the first time, and it was actually a movie. I actually cried several times in that movie about things that never happened. Me not showing up for my daughter's performance, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All made up stuff. And if you want to know the truth about what actually happened back then, I released a book April Fool's Day this year. It was called The Perfect Game, subtitled Tetris from Russia with Love. And so it's my first foray into writing a book. And actually, if you want to wait for the audiobook, I've just finished doing that too. I spent 4 days in the studio reading my own book. So fast forward, it's 2005, and I just sold the company. And the company was a company that makes games for mobile phones. We had Tetris as our big game, and of course we had the #1 game in mobile phones at that time. Sold it for a bunch of money. A month afterwards, I found myself in the back of an ambulance on the way to a hospital in Hawaii, living in Hawaii at the time, with 100% blockage of the Widowmaker. 100% of the blockage of the Widowmaker kills 95% of the people that happens to. 95. So I'm the lucky 5%. I didn't know that was happening. They were taking me in for observation. They weren't even going to turn on the siren. When the siren went on, I knew something hit the fan. And so I said, at that moment I said, no, I'm not going. I still have stuff to do. That's what I said. If I have to hold my breath for 15 minutes, then I'm going to do that, whatever it is. They're going to bring me back. I have 2 stents. That's 20 years ago. I've had no problem since, so obviously it all worked. Gosh, modern science, 2 stents. I left the hospital 4 days later with 2 Band-Aids. Anyway, in the recovery room, I started thinking, what did I mean by stuff? I already made enough money, so my wife didn't need me anymore. My kids were already out of college, so my kids didn't need me anymore. So I was kind of done with the kind of stuff that you normally think that you need to accomplish. I should retire and play golf, but that's not me. So anyway, I started thinking, what is it that's going to upset me if I didn't do something about it by the end of my life, by the real end of my life? And so I decided to find my missions in life. And the first mission came to me in the back of the newspaper. This is still in the recovery room. It's in Hawaii. It's the Hawaii newspaper. The back of the newspaper now, by the obituaries, it's like, oh, by the way, we're going to kill all the coral in the world by the end of the century. It's like, what? What's causing that? Ocean acidification. What's causing that? Carbon dioxide. And what's causing that? We are. So, mission number 1. End use of carbon-based fuel. That's where it started. But once I looked into carbon dioxide, I found out, oh my gosh, this thing is causing all of climate change. It's like the disaster. Anyway, that mission, end the use of carbon-based fuel, can sound like a big mission. It can, but it doesn't have to be. Just another thing to do. I started my first foundation, first nonprofit. Call it a foundation, which is a big mistake because everyone thinks you're going to give them money. That's not what we do. We do stuff anyway. So we set about ending the use of carbon-based fuel in Hawaii. Now at the time, Hawaii imported $5 billion a year of oil, and $1 billion of coal. Out of the $1 billion, 30% is jet fuel, 30% is ground transportation, 40%, or $2 billion, is making electricity. So $2 billion plus $3 billion of fossil fuel was being used to make electricity every single year. That's 1.5 million people plus tourists plus military. So that's a lot of money. And that is kind of reproduced on some similar scale on every other island in the world. In fact, it's worse. We import oil because we have refineries. And most islands import diesel, which is already refined, which means it's more expensive. So anyway, electricity generation was the biggest use of fossil fuels. So I said, we're going to go after that. If we do that one, then people will see, hey, we can take on the biggest problem, solve that, and then they can go on to solve the smaller problems, to give them the confidence. We tried everything. I mean, I knew nothing about this when we started. We tried talking to the governor. She said, you know nothing about this. We had a female, not saying that had anything to do with it. I'm just saying that she said, you don't know what you're talking about. And I didn't. I said, I will. I'll learn. And same thing with the politicians, and then the electric company wouldn't give us the time of day, the utility. And we tried everything. We ended up deciding that we're going to get the people on our side. And so how do you get to the people? How did people in this country stop smoking? It wasn't because there's a label on the package that says that this stuff is going to kill you. It was because our children asked us to stop. There was a campaign to get our children to ask their parents to stop smoking. So I said, okay, the children is the way to go. So we had children go door to door and exchange 300,000 light bulbs, thereby having a conversation between a child and adult about efficiency, about saving money, because an LED light bulb uses 1/10 the electricity of an incandescent light bulb. So we traded them, and we made bouquets of incandescent light bulbs and gave them to the politicians. Things like that. Eventually, we prevailed, and we passed a law in Hawaii. We're the first state in the country to have a law that says Hawaii has to go 100% renewable. We wanted 2040, they were going to give us 2050. We negotiated and we got 2045. That's where the 2045 date came from. And my son pointed out to me, you know, that happens to be the 100th anniversary of the United Nations. So that kind of, yeah, somehow that number came to me, it came to us. And it means something. So we followed it up by changing the business model of the utility so that they make more money by switching to renewables. Now, they paid at that time, or still do, maybe more, 25 cents per kilowatt hour for oil. 25 cents per kilowatt hour. When they put out RFPs, requests for proposal, for renewable energy, wind and solar came in at about 8 cents per kilowatt hour. And if you add batteries, which you need because wind and solar are intermittent, it's up to 12 cents per kilowatt hour. That's still less than half of the cost of oil. So their old business model was 2.5 cents, or 10% on the price of oil. What a dumbass business model. 10% on the price of oil means they're happy when the price of oil goes up. That's 2.5 cents. We said, okay, you make 3 cents on the renewables. Guess who's our best friend now? So Hawaii today, that was 10 years ago. Today, Hawaii is at 38% renewable energy. Some parts are faster, some parts are slower. It's not all easy. You know, we're having problems with the government trying to bring in LNG at this point, which is it's not a bridge, it's a pier, in my opinion. So anyway, Hawaii's on track. 2 years later, California copied us. They credit us for having come up with the legislation, and they passed the same legislation, 100% renewable by 2045. Followed by Illinois, New York, Washington, Oregon. 15 other states now have the same legislation. So over 50% of the people in this country live in a state that is going to go 100% renewable energy by 2040, 2045, 2050. It's a little bit different state by state. It's working. It's working. We're halfway there. Now, we, of course, focused on the easy half. But I mean, that's still, you know, let's focus on the easy half. Here's the problem. The problem is that the United States is only 4.3% of the people in the world. And so even if we're 100% renewable energy, that still leaves 96% of the rest of the world to go. So I decided that we're going to have to do the same thing we did in the U.S., outside the U.S. So we started the Blue Planet Alliance. I moved to New York so I could be close to the United Nations. And we started doing the same thing we did in the U.S. outside. So how do we do that? We bring islands, first of all islands, because they're the ones who suffer the most from climate change, and they pay the highest for electricity. So we bring islands, we bring them to Hawaii, show them what we did. Now what we bring them to Hawaii, it's 4 people. It's someone from the government, someone from the utility, someone from the regulatory agency, and someone from the community, like an environmentalist. No woman, no pay. Meaning, if there's no woman in the mix, we don't pay for their airfare, they have to pay their own way. Our board is always going to be a majority of women. Men got us into this, and I have absolutely no confidence that men can get us out. So, yes, we have women on our board, and some of them are very vocal and very strong. So, one woman, no pay. We have so far brought 35 islands, Pacific, Caribbean, Indian Ocean islands to Hawaii, and 2 countries. And coming up, we do this every 6 months, 8 to 10 countries, island countries, and we keep them for a week. 2 days where they get to meet everybody that was involved in the transition, the naysayers, the before and after people. Then in the middle of the week, on Wednesday, we take them around the island, show them what we've done, and all the renewable energy projects. And then we spend a couple of days teaching them how to work together. And on Friday, each team gets to present what's the solution for their island. You know, based on listening to us and what they know about their island. And then we send them back, and then we have a team of experts, if you want to call them that have been doing all the presentations. They basically are there to support them after they go back. So they have questions, whatever, they run into roadblocks. We're having a roadblock in Bermuda right now. I was on a Zoom just before this, and they have the LNG problem. Somebody wants to bring in LNG. Okay, so that's the foundation, that's the alliance. Oh, by the way, I'm a computer game designer. Did I tell you that already? Yeah, I did. So whenever I go to a conference and we're in a room and we're trying to figure out how to fix climate change, somebody comes up with a bright idea, let's gamify this. And then everybody looks at me and said, okay, when are you going to get to work? You know, it's like, wait, I'm not in the game business anymore. It's hard enough to get somebody to play a game. If you try to get somebody to play a game that has some kind of lesson that they're supposed to like learn and then apply in the real world, that's like impossible. There's too many games out there. I remember there was an ad for a game. It's like you play this game and you don't have to learn anything. You don't have to learn anything. It's like, okay. So that's a hard thing. But anyway, finally I gave in. I said, okay, I'm gonna think about this. And so I'm making. It's pretty soon. It's going into testing. I made a role-playing game for action. You could say climate action, but it's any kind of action. Call it the Action App. And what the Action App does, it answers the question. You know, like I give a talk like this, and at the end of the talk, some people come up to me and say, "So what can I do?" And I said, "I don't know what you can do. You have to figure out what you can do and do that. You know, everybody's different. Figure out what you don't like about the world and go and fix that. I mean, don't have to fix what I want you to fix. Fix what you want you to fix." And then I realized that I really haven't helped them at all. They're just as puzzled about what they should do next as they were before they asked me the question. So the Action App is a list of things to do. And in the beginning, they're tiny things. They're pick up a piece of rubbish, put it in the rubbish can, switch the lights, turn off the light switch in a room where there's no people. And you do a bunch of those small things, and then you go up a level. That's role-playing. Now you're level 2. And level 2 means you get to do bigger things. In Dungeons & Dragons, you get to fight bigger monsters. But these are bigger things to do. And you know, maybe the things in the beginning take a minute, and then they take 10 minutes. Level 3 maybe takes an hour, and then so on. By the time you're up to level 5 or 6, you're doing things that take a week. And what do you get for it? You get status. Status, I mean, when you think about it, everything we do, the money and so on, it's all about status. Bigger car, better television, farther vacation, bigger lawn, bigger house, bigger this, bigger that, more expensive this or that. And these are all status symbols. So let's go straight to the status. And the way I want the status to work is when Taylor Swift goes to have a concert somewhere. On Monday, the level 6s get to buy tickets. On Tuesday, level 5, and then Wednesday, level 4, and so on. The same price, but the people who have done the most for the environment or have taken the most action will be sitting in the front. So and then basically the artist or the sports team or the stadium can take credit for having caused all those people to take all that action. So there's 2 ways that you can make points. One is you can do the actions, but 2 is you can create an action. When you create an action and somebody else does it, you get points. So then it becomes a big competition to see who can create the most actionable action. And I think at the end of the day, instead of having, you know, like putting up a silly video or a little story or whatever and getting likes, now we're getting actions. The AI is watching to see how much of an impact, carbon impact, pollution impact, whatever it is, social impact, whatever those impacts are, The AI is watching and calculating how many people have done it and how much of a difference does it make. So even if it's a small action, if a lot of people do it, it makes a big difference. And I want to have this vision, you know, it's the concert, and the QR code comes up, and the first action that everybody does is pick up the rubbish that's around you. And it'll be the cleanest concert ever. And then everybody in that concert will realize, oh my gosh, if we all just pick up after ourselves, the world will be a better place. I go to Burning Man. I just came back from Burning Man a couple of weeks ago. No matter out of place. And if there's anything that I learned at Burning Man that I want to bring to the rest of the world, it's no matter out of place. So, actually I have a lot of time left. Anybody want me to talk about something else? So I started thinking of, you know, so what does it all mean? You know, when do we fix climate change? When do we fix plastic in the ocean? When do we fix anything? And the answer is that if we don't have a deadline, nothing happens. No building has ever been built that didn't have a deadline that said you have to have this building built by such and such a date. I'm going to go to the moon by the end of this decade. That's a deadline. If that deadline didn't exist, we would still be thinking about how we're going to go to the moon. But we went because we had a deadline. So fixing climate change, just like anything else, needs a deadline. Everything needs a deadline that we have to get done. And that's the one thing that I feel that is missing. You know, the target for the IPCC is we want to stay below 1.5 degrees warming. What does that mean to anybody? First of all, there's Celsius and Fahrenheit. They're different. So 1.5 degrees Celsius, nobody in America understands what that is. 1.5 degrees warmer, what's wrong with that? I don't have to wear a jacket. You know, they don't understand that difference. And then there's no way for us to measure that as individuals, as people. We rely on scientists. And a lot of people that are out there that basically don't believe science, or they think science is a belief system. It's funny because they fly on planes. You know, and it's like, yeah, I fly on a plane. Well, that's science. Without science and engineering, that plane would not fly. It wouldn't even exist. So, I mean, like, it's not a belief system. It's different from a belief system. Anyway, so the point is that we just need to make a decision. Now, if we go back in time, and people don't like when I tell the story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. It's World War II. The beginning of World War II, we went from, in 5 years, we went from biplanes to jet planes. We invented missiles, cruise missiles, sonar, radar, the atom bomb. This is in 5 years using 1940s technology. 5 years. This is 2025. There ain't nothing we can't do today. And with AI, are you kidding me? We have at least a 3,000% increase in productivity. Back to that productivity thing. AI is going to help us. We're not going to forget anything anymore. You know, like people have invented things in history. You know, what did Nikola Tesla invent? You know, he died and a lot of his stuff was like lost in history. What was he building in New Jersey? And these things are all kind of lost, but today all that information will never be lost again. And AI will help us sift through and figure out what's the better of those technologies. And we'll get them done. All we need to do is decide by when we want to fix climate change, by when we want to fix plastic in the ocean, by when we want to clean up our rivers, by when we want to cure some disease. All of this can be done. We just have to have a deadline. I have 4 missions. I have 4 kids. So I decided I was going to have 4 missions. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I was thinking that each of my kids were going to pick up one of my missions. That is so not happening. That is so not happening. So my second mission is to end war. And I'm back a generation when it was 1971, I think. Kent State happened. And we went demonstrating. 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't want your blanket war. They told me I can't use dirty words. And so my mission back then was to end war. I mean, this is ridiculous. Why did we go to Vietnam and kill people and die? For what? At some point, the young people of the world are going to say, you know what? You want to fight a war, you go fight it. Say to the old people. Because it's old people that decide to go to war. It's not young people. Old people decide, hey, you have to go to war. You have to go to war. And don't come back until you've killed somebody. What about the 10 commandments, the first commandment, thou shalt not kill. How does that jive? It doesn't say except if it's for your country. It's just, thou shalt not kill, period. I lived in Japan for 18 years, and it used to be lots of little countries, and they killed each other, for territory, for minerals, for God knows what. And then they found out, hey, there were other people out there that had bigger guns. And all of a sudden they realized, hey, you know what? We're not all these little countries. We're actually all Japanese. And that's what has to happen to the world. The whole world has to realize that we're not lots of little countries. We're all one people. Anyway, that's war. I'd like there to be a date in the future that says, from that date on, there will no longer be any war heroes, only war criminals. If you kill somebody, you're a murderer, period. We need to switch that thinking. There is no reason why you should ever kill anybody for anything. Mission number 3 is to make a backup of life by going to other planets, and my friend Rolf is here. He does things with NASA as well. I have a little test facility on Mauna Loa where we test living on Mars or Moon. I think that the natural progression for human beings is to go off planet. We have explored every place on this planet, and there's this energy that's within us that wants us to explore more. And the more we explore in this planet, the more damage we do. So it really is time for us to move on. And nature, when you think about it, all of life on Earth is, as far as we know, this is the only place that has life as we know it. I mean, we looked, and I've hung out with a woman that does the search for extraterrestrial intelligence SETI. We haven't heard anything in, 40, 50 years, something like that. Why is that? There's a lot of different reasons. The equation, the Drake equation, says that there should be tons and tons of civilizations out there. Well, we haven't heard from anyone. And it could be that civilizations don't last very long. Like, we could be headed to the end of this civilization, and then we'll stop broadcasting. So the period of broadcasting only lasts a couple of hundred years. And in the scope of things, like the billions of years, if civilizations only broadcast for like 200 years, we might miss that. And that's the reason we might not hear somebody from somewhere else. But be that as it may, life has propagated to every possible ecosystem in the world. I mean, the coldest, the hottest, the most inhospitable place, life is there. Why is that? It's just for survival. In case things change, and things have changed in the past, we've had mass extinctions on this planet where 90-something% of the species died, but that last 4%, 4 or 5% repopulated the entire planet. And that is nice if you have a planet to repopulate. But there is, it's possible we could get hit by a big rock from space. We could have a supernova event in the neighborhood, which would fry us. And eventually the sun is going to nova itself. So we need to make it back up. And that's the whole, that mission number 3. At this point in time, I pretty much disagree with Elon about everything except for that. I still agree with him on that. And he wants to go, and I want to make sure that when we get there, we do the right thing. We treat the place, wherever we go, with respect, and we don't trash the place like we've trashed this planet. Mission number 4, you're going to love this one. Find out how the universe ends and do something about it. Now, why do I have that mission? And I think I have that mission because it's a big mission. I was at a TED conference and somebody gave a talk and he said, you know, if you can complete your missions in your lifetime, your missions aren't big enough. So here is one mission that isn't going to be completed in my lifetime, for sure. And it makes the other one seem small. And in the scope of things, like the Industrial Revolution or the invention of the wheel, all those things happened. And they, in the scope of things, they're small. Ending climate change is small. It's not huge. It's just a thing that we have to do. Now, all we have to do to solve climate change is to set that deadline. I like that deadline to be 2045. I mean, it could be any time. I'm giving the electric companies lots of time to make the change. That's still 20 years. 20 years? Are you kidding me? This is not World War. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it is another world war, and we have to survive it. But in 20 years, we can definitely do this. All we need to do is have a deadline and determination. People ask me if I have hope. I say, no, I do not have hope. I have determination. Because we're going to do this. This is all of us. And you are now part of the team. I'm going to say, if you're an old engineer, if there are any engineers in here, you guys got us into this. You guys got to get us out. We can't just give it to our kids. This is a big problem. And the quicker we solve the problem, the less damage we do. So please join me in ending climate change by 2045. Name of the organization is the Blue Planet Alliance. It means alliance of everybody. So here we go. Thank you.
One more hand for Hank Rogers. All right, we are in the home stretch. You are the faithful, so thank you for sticking with us. What an amazing few days we've had together, and I want to begin by thanking everyone on the team who made the Future Summit and the related events possible this week. We know we've created a lot of different experiences for you, and we definitely are looking forward to your feedback as we plan next year's summit. Also, we have one more to go tomorrow, so for folks who are interested in faculty professional development, if you don't know about that and you are interested in participating, just reach out to one of the team members and we'll connect you with that. Also, just wanted to call out the Chancellor's Office staff, the Foothill-De-Anza Community College District team, our new founding partners, our AI fellows, our change makers. You can clap for yourselves in the audience. Our ambassadors and scholars, the Foundation for California Community Colleges events team, our summit sponsors, all of the industry and philanthropic partners. And again, we could not do this without you. If I forgot anyone, I apologize. This is why I'm not using names, because you always forget somebody. Again, the planning team was just blown away this year. We had over 700 registered for the summit, which was up from 400 last year. So thank you for being here. Thank you for spreading the word. And just when our collective team thought that it was safe to sit back and relax, we're already scoping out what next year's summit will look like in next September. So save a little date on your calendar. We'll push those specific dates out soon, and we'll definitely look forward to having you back. As we come to the close of the summit, I want to pause and reflect on where we began, what we've explored together, and where we go from here. On the first day, Chancellor Christian set the tone with a powerful call to meet the moment, as California's community colleges, 116 colleges strong, over 88,000 faculty, staff, and administrators serving our 2.2 million students, and to step forward to shape the future of AI. She shared that special message we had from the governor, who reiterated his vision that our community colleges are core to training the workforce as the global epicenter of technology in California, and that what we can not only help improve individual lives, but also support a well-rounded citizenry in our state and our communities. Our state chancellor also set out some clear priorities for us: the importance of student and faculty-centered professional development, the centrality of supporting innovation with infrastructure, the responsibility to prepare students for a changing workforce, and the charge to strive for AI literacy for all Californians. So throughout this year's Future Summit and all the adjacent events that were around it, we are building out that vision together. For the past week, our staff, our students, faculty, and administrators made the time to gather together, despite all of your impossibly busy schedules, to share your experiences and your expertise with one another. Thank you for your creativity, your curiosity, and your commitment that transforms Vision 2030 from just an aspiration into reality. So please give yourselves a round of applause. With that, we are definitely looking forward to seeing you at other events this year, and certainly back here in Silicon Valley next year for Future Summit 2026. Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate you. Have a great afternoon and stay tuned.